Have you ever worried that you're gonna lose it at work, start to cry, yell at somebody, uh, say something you shouldn't? I've been there too. And today I'm going to talk about what I've learned from those experiences when I've fallen apart, when I've yelled at my admin support, maybe when I shut down and checked out when my staff really needed me because I lacked the composure. Today I'm going to talk about how you can regain your composure with one little secret that you may not know of. Hey, my dear, I'm leadership development coach Kathy Archer, and I help women leaders enjoy impactful leadership. And let me tell you, if you're not feeling composed and in control of yourself, you are not enjoying leadership. And you are not being very effective either. And so we're going to talk today about how you can get that level of composure so that you can get back to enjoying and making a difference in your leadership. I was talking to a client yesterday, brand new client, and we're going along and I'm asking her about what's happening for her and what she's experiencing at work. And she's struggling a little bit because she's not really feeling connected to her work. She was saying, I've been here for 9 years. I know the job inside out and I just don't feel fulfilled. And she's going on and on. And all of a sudden, and I don't know what I asked. I don't know what I said. I can't honestly remember. All of a sudden, she's crying. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And she's trying to sort of get herself back together. And what she then proceeds to tell me is not only is she doing this with me right now, she did it with her boss the other day. She said, I try so hard to just shut things off, tune them out, just push them down, and just do the work I need to do. And sometimes it just like falls out. And that's the problem. You cannot shut your emotions off. You cannot tune them out, push them down, set them aside, and then like never deal with them. Because here's what will happen. And this is what she experienced yesterday. They'll hijack you and they'll fall out when you least expect it. And you'll be in the middle of a meeting and all of a sudden you'll snap or something will trigger you and you will shut down because it's like, I'm done. I'm just so done with this crap. Can't deal with this anymore. And that's what happens for us. We try to shut our emotions off. We try not to deal with them. But the problem is you cannot manage what you can't see. Let me say that again. You cannot manage what you cannot see. So if you've tried to push those emotions down, shut them off, check them out, you can't manage them because they're over here building and building and building and they're getting triggered and they're getting pushed on and something's happening and those emotions are like stirring all around you. And you're just like, no, I can't see you. I can't hear you. But they're still there. And you cannot manage them if you're trying to ignore them, pretend they don't exist. In order for you to manage your emotions, which is what composed leadership is, which is what emotional intelligence is, you have to name it to tame it. That's the first part of the secret, is that you have to name the emotion to tame them. So rather than pushing all of these emotions over here and they're like, and you trying to, go to the meeting and go, I can't hear you. I can't see you. I'm not dealing with you right now. You have to kind of recognize what's going on. Name the emotion to tame the emotion. Here's where we struggle. And this is like the real big secret is we actually don't know how to name emotions. We don't know much beyond 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 emotions at best. We know the other ones, but we don't use them perhaps. And so what the scientists have realized that have studied emotional intelligence is those that are more emotionally intelligent have a wider range of vocabulary of the emotions. They understand what's called emotional granularity. Rather than just angry, I'm furious or I'm annoyed or I'm irate or I'm hostile or I'm miffed. Those are all way different feelings. And when you can name it, if you're miffed or annoyed, that's way different than hostile. If you are furious, it's not just a quick deep breath that you need to take. You need to get out of that meeting and get control of yourself. And so when you can name that level of granularity of the emotion, you're going to be better able to tame it. So, in this week's podcast, I talk about the emotions that are safe to express at work. So, the link is in the notes for that. In the past few podcasts, so if you've been following along, we talked about that competence is the first step if you're going to be a confident leader. You have to know the skill, you have to get it. Here's the problem for most of us: we will never be competent at emotional control because we don't have the skill, we don't have that emotional vocabulary. So that's a skill you need to learn. And I will tell you, I have pages and pages that I pull out regularly to go, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? What is it that I'm feeling? And that's what I teach to those of you in the training library inside the emotional control course. It's learning that emotional vocabulary, understanding the nuances between things. Because again, if you name it, you can tame it. But if you try to ignore it and shut it off and pretend it's not there, or if you get the feeling wrong, if you say, I'm just annoyed, when really you're at irate, you can't tame irate when you're pretending you're annoyed. That's a way, that's a big gap. And you have to recognize where you're at on that sort of ladder. And you have to recognize how quickly or what triggers you to go from annoyed to furious. It might be that you are one of the examples that I used in the podcast was I was annoyed with my staff, but I was actually really mad, really furious out with my staff because she said something that embarrassed me. So I was angry, I was annoyed, but man, when I hit that word embarrassment, I went, oh, that was it. I pride myself in the quality of work we're putting out and in the quality of my team. And so when my team does something that embarrasses me, oh, that hurts. And so I had to recognize that's embarrassment, and that's why the anger is building up. Does that make sense? Are you starting to understand that there's these different levels? So that's the big secret. Name it to tame it, but get specific. Increase your emotional vocabulary so that you can really specifically name it, and then you'll be able to tame it and manage it. I wanted to read a quote from Joan Bozanko. Sorry, I said her name wrong. Because I think this is something that we really have to sort of remember when we're really trying to become a composed leader. Emotions are messages about our world. Repressing them simply keeps us ignorant. And so if you're feeling something, last week's show, I talked about a leader who I said, is that like a sense of apathy? And she said, no, that's resentment. Apathy and resentment, two completely different emotions. But when she can tune into that, that's a message for her. I'm resenting my staff. Whoa, I got to do something different. If she's not tuned into that message, she's not going to be an effective leader or a happy leader or an engaged leader. She's going to be one that is like bitter, mean, perhaps, disconnected, not an engaged, supportive, and a leader who's helping her team grow and develop. Name the emotion to tame the emotion. Get that emotional granularity, and that's what's going to really help you manage those emotions. So if you want more help with this, head over to the links in the notes because I've got the podcast episode there about what emotions are safe to share at work, episode number 10. There's a link to a blog article around the emotional literacy. And of course, there's a link to the training library. Because if this has been helpful to you, then what you find in the training library is going to be something that's immensely helpful to you. Because here's the challenge. Many women leaders think that they can't afford a personal coach, that they can't afford the ongoing personal and professional development that they need, or that their organization can afford it. But inside the training library, I've made it affordable and accessible to you to get this ongoing personal and professional development training, like emotional literacy, like helping you understand how to recognize and manage and tame those emotions so that you can be a composed and confident leader. You can learn more about that at kathyarcher.com/library, and that will give you all the information you need to access the training library. Name it to tame it. Recognize the emotion so that you can manage the emotion. and really get clear. Increase your emotional vocabulary, because that, my dear, is what's going to help you get out of survival mode and move to thriving in both your leadership and life. Go make the rest of your day awesome, my dear.